All right, everyone, welcome to this Clubhouse event. Your energy, your health, be responsible with empowering solutions. I would like to start by raising the vibration in this space we are in now by calling for the highest possible vibration and calling for the truth to come forward into our discussion so that the truth can be seen, heard, and spoken, and that we all be in that frequency of truth and have nothing but the truth. Should I call for the divine feminine to bring balance back into our world and showing us the way through honor, respect, and gratitude and calling for the highest possible vibration? I ask for everyone to take a sip of water as water holds memory and ask for the water to hydrate our brain and body. Now I ask for everyone to take a deep breath. 3, 2, 1, and let it all out. And take another deep breath in, bringing in peace, joy, gratitude, and life. And exhale out, releasing all stress and worry, all that does not serve you. And Lakesh and Veritas, everyone, I call for the oneness and truth of the information shared by each and every one of us on this call, calling in that frequency of truth so that we may all experience all that is truth, as it is our purpose for this Clubhouse event that we can to benefit from this information shared with honor, respect, and gratitude to you all. The greeting and Lakesh signifies unity, where everything is related to one another, where everything and everyone is connected. It is the idea of community, where we can share with one another our ideas, goals, and aspirations so that we all, as one, can benefit and thrive. And Lakesh is that declaration in which we are clearing out our spaces, the space we're in now, so that we may be able to bring forth a truthful, elevated, enlightened discussion this evening, clearing away those thoughts that we tend to pick up and carry with us from our everyday life experiences. The words and Lakesh and Veritas is a powerful affirmation that assists in bringing clarity and a greater understanding of truth to all who are present and to all who are listening. Our words have power, so let us remember and decide to use our words carefully, using words of upliftment, encouragement, enlightenment. By doing so, as a collective, it will help us to transform our spaces and places into some higher frequencies, better experiences for each and every one of us here, as well as those who we touch. So, En Lakesh and Veritas, everyone, with honor, respect, and gratitude. So before we begin, I'd like for everyone to hold your water. And now I ask that everyone with intention in mind send the frequency of En Lakesh to your water and then take a sip of your water. We are 70% water, and water holds information and memory, thereby assisting in incorporating this elevated frequency of En Lakesh into our cells and into the subatomic space within our bodies. By doing this technique, it will allow for the ease and flow of the information we'll be sharing with one another this evening. I want to just remind everyone you can access the recording of this Clubhouse event and recordings from our prior Clubhouse events on Vimeo and YouTube by searching Enlakesh Studios. And please remember to subscribe if you have not already done so. You can also find more information and content on enlakeshstudio2.com so that you can keep up to date with the information and content that is continually being added. All right, everyone. So let us go on with our discussion. So today, there's been so much confusion in our world, people trying to figure out and find out solutions to the many problems that exist. And it has become very challenging for many people trying to figure out and make decisions in their lives, from as simple as, should I take a right or should I take a left? Or should I eat this or should I not eat that? Should I follow the advice from this person even though I am not fully comfortable with the choice, but I should just follow that recommendation because it's coming from an organization to whom I am told is an authority on the subject, despite my feeling uneasy with the decision. Have you ever encountered such a situation in your life? So, for the past 2 weeks, we discussed some solutions to answer the many questions people are having for themselves using tools that are available to us, such as kinesiology, and using the call for the truth divination cards, information shared by Diane Annis from Enlica Studio One. So last week we had an extensive discussion on the process of being a communicator, discussing the science and the myths regarding this process, the distinction from what people refer to as channeling versus one who is a communicator. And Tarvars of the Sun gave us quite a thorough and extensive explanation of these two processes. And I asked him to return to give further explanation on this topic. So thank you, Tarvars, for returning.
Yes, Inlakash Veritas, honor, respect, and gratitude. Pleasure
Thank
to
you.
be back.
And yes, and Lakesh Veritas with honor, respect, and gratitude. I also want to add that I also have several people here on Clubhouse who are communicators in the audience, myself included, whom I'd like for them to share their process in being a communicator, a little later on during the discussion of our Clubhouse. But right now, Tavares, will you please start the discussion reviewing with us what is a communicator? Again, just doing a quick review, its process, and the difference from one who is a channeler.
Yes, so this will be a brief recap of what was shared, and if you weren't here before, I encourage you to check out the previous two clubhouses. They were really good. Uh, I believe Delilah has these uploaded on Vimeo and her YouTube channel. There's even a really hot one with Lauta when she was last speaking of the divine feminine and call for the truth.
Yeah.
Yep, I'm doing plugs for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, what is a communicator? So, within of the sun, there's known the process of communicating, and in communicating, it is the idea of translating and well, literally communicating with other forms of consciousness. It's exactly what it sounds like. We do this with each other. We're communicating right now, but communication extends beyond just moving our mouth. We teach to communicate with all forms of intelligences, such as the
Mm-hmm.
trees, our bodies, as you mentioned through kinesiology, uh, communicating with the spaces and places as a property clearer,
Mm-hmm.
communicating with off-world intelligences, the archangel realms, mystical, magical, sacred beings, uh, many different forms of life that is non-physical and things that are physical that are inanimate. Information can be exchanged.
Mm-hmm.
And all things are consciousness. We are swimming in a sea of consciousness, and communication or the capacity to communicate with another thing within our universe is inherent within the design. It's like a fundamental aspect of our reality that
Mm-hmm.
extends beyond the traditional sense. And this is something that we understand that everyone can do if one, they are told that they can, and
Right.
two, they are taught appropriately how uh, to to do such a thing. So that was just again a very brief understanding, and many people are having various forms of communication that may come to them from their plants. And I actually I feel like I'm getting ahead of myself because there's other things that I want to share, but I'd like to just lay that down. And you have
Mm-hmm.
thoughts maybe regarding the definition of the communication?
Yeah, well, I think I've thought about it. Sometimes, people say, oh, they start talking to themselves. I don't know if many people come into that
Yeah.
situation. They talk to themselves. And I mean, if you think about it, it's like, you're talking to yourselves while you're talking to the plant. Oh, you're so beautiful, and it's like they don't realize that the plant is probably communicating with them.
Yeah, because it's not how we think it is.
Hmm.
Everything's always actually communicating with us.
Right. Right.
Let me give you an example. Had a fly or flies plural communicating with me, and they were straight up trying to get my attention. And it was to the point of I'm not gonna say I was annoyed, but I was like, "Oh my gosh, you guys have something to say." I Okay, and then I gave and I said, "Okay, okay. When I finish with this meditation, I will sit and answer and open my inbox. I'll see what you have to say," because apparently what you have to say was important, and it was of high importance. It was more of a something that me myself, Lao Tzu, needed to be alerted to,
Mhm.
and yeah. So everything has information, but we the way it comes is different than how we've been conditioned and programmed in our
Right.
movies and TV shows and
With a fanfare, it's like,
oh
ooh, it's all
oh
woo.
yes, yes, if I may. So something hilarious happened today that I didn't actually watch it, but it made me think about the Clubhouse.
Mhm.
So I saw a suggested video on my YouTube page, and the thumbnail, the title read, "How This Indigenous Woman Talks to Plants and Animals." And when you hover your mouse over the thumbnail of the video, it'll play a little bit of the video for you. And I'm
Yeah.
seeing I'm seeing these fantastical theatrics, like, she's dancing and shaking around the tree, and then there's this other woman who's just breathing deep and she's in meditation, and then this woman she's pouring something over the tree and she's blowing this flute and she's doing all these things, and I'm like, whoa, it don't look like that when I do it. I don't have to do all that. You're expending a lot of energy just to have a conversation. So this is the picture that's being painted, or that has been painted for us, of what's required. Was spin around 3 times into the full moon on one
Yeah.
leg in order to make something happen. We're overcomplicating it, is what I'm saying.
Right, right. Exactly, exactly. Thank you for that great explanation. Can you also then explain the difference between a communicator and a channeler, so that for those who may have missed it last week? Just
Yes. So I'll start with a channeler. So consider with channeling, this is the way how our guidance has shared it with us. When someone channels, they are inviting an entity or a being to occupy their vessel. And in doing so, they relinquish most of their control and or authority over themselves.
Mhm.
You could also look at that as a form of possession. And there's various levels and extremes to this. And our perspective here at Of a Sun, that's rather archaic. You don't have to let something all up into you to have a conversation. And it's rather uncomfortable. This is my vessel. I'm occupying the space. However, there's an easier way. So the idea of communicating, we are tapping into the truth that has already been established, where there is, through frequency, information being transferred without even speaking. We are actually doing that with each other all the time. I was actually having a conversation with Tiffany earlier about communication, and we were expounding on this idea of how we all speak the language of frequency, whether we know it or not, and information is communicated non-verbally, just when we're in each other's fields. We know
Mm.
when a person is resentful or angry or upset with us. We know when a person is at peace, or they have a genuine, warm, loving feeling or sentiments towards us. This can all be
Yes.
sensed or apprehended without the person or either party speaking. It's communicated. So we are translating information through the feeling that's being assimilated. And this is without having someone occupy your vessel. And
Right.
even more so, that's a form of enslavement. We are relinquishing our power to allow something else to take control.
By doing the channel,
Yeah,
by doing the so-called channel.
essentially.
Mm.
But with communicating, this is established within freedom. It's respect and free will for the individual, who is like yourself or myself, that seeks to communicate with another. Let's say, let's say it's archangel or some mystical being, and then we are ourselves are operating within the context of freedom, where we are allowing them to say what they have to say.
Mhm.
There isn't. It's just really established within this idea of freedom for both parties. So that's, from what I understand, to be the difference, and that is a stark difference. And I think for anyone who uh, can see that truth in terms of the explanation, even though it's predominantly known with channeling, but to know that, hey, there's a better alternative out here.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Now, can you now, uh, explain Akasha and the Akashic records to everyone and how it relates as being a communicator?
Yes. So consider the Akasha being a field of universal memory that extends beyond this lifetime, beyond this planet. Uh, it's our universe, parallel realities and dimensions. Everything is contained within this field of information, which we call the Akasha. When you look at the Sanskrit term of Akasha, it translates into atmosphere or sky. I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
lean into atmosphere. So consider information floating in the atmosphere or the field, which we are not separate from. We're
Right.
always connected. We've always been connected to it.
And all can access then too. All have the ability to access this information.
Most
Correct?
certainly. Most certainly. It's embedded within our ancient ancestors to design this biology in accordance with the universal laws and principles and the geometric algorithms which allow us to be receptors of such information in the field. It's a given. It's a birthright. However, we have been taught otherwise. I think I mentioned in the previous clubhouse that there's gatekeepers of this knowledge, people who have come through time, who they're kind of like the face of it. And I've seen people like even like Sigmund Freud talking about the Akasha. So you got these people who make it very mystic and ooh, the Akasha, and it's not
Yeah,
even
you
that,
have to have special abilities in order to access it. That's what
yeah,
happened.
yeah. And it has people feeling like they're less than, like they're not worthy of it because they haven't reached some type of point. And that's not to say that in order to access it, it does not require us to be at a high vibration to do so, because it does. But what I am saying is that this is our birthright. This is
Mhm.
something that everyone is connected to, and oftentimes we are tapping into it. So, the shamans, the master teachers, the demigods, throughout time have all pulled forth information from the field,
Mhm.
which is the memory of time itself that's
Right,
been recorded.
right, right. Yeah, thank you for that explanation. So, and that is actually another form of communication, getting answers. Getting answered. What better way to get answers which were provided from our ancestors? I'd like to share with everyone, my process as a communicator. I myself communicate with trees, specifically father tree. And I've been doing this for several years. And it's funny, before doing this practice, I had an affinity for trees, and I didn't even know it. If you come to visit me in my home, you'll see a lot of the artwork in relationship to trees, down to my towels, the cabinets in some of my are in my furniture. So, and this is before delving into the practice as a communicator with the Father Tree. So, let me explain my process in making sure that I make sure that my vibration is elevated in order to tap into that consciousness, the morphic field of Father Tree. And this means keeping my space cleared energetically. So I continually undergo daily practices that raise my vibration, such as taking salt baths. Salt helps to clear those lower vibrations and interferences, and doing meditation, such as Ho'oponopono. And I try to maintain a high vibrations of positive thoughts. Then I just sit back and get quiet and listen to the wisdom that's being offered to me from Father Tree. And the one key component is to give gratitude for life, for the message that is being shared, looking for the good in all things. And remember that many of the trees have lived for centuries, hundreds of years. So they experience and have seen the many life cycles of man and humanity over time. So, I strive to maintain an elevated frequency as much as possible and stay in gratitude. And it's gotten to the point where I'll get messages just sitting down and listening, or listening to, let's say, another Clubhouse or podcast, or listening to music, or while driving my car, but I do, however, dedicate some time to really sit down, listen, and sit down quietly, recording the information, either writing it down or recording it on my phone. So this is actually my process. And so there are other people here, in the audience in the Clubhouse, who has their own processes, and I'd like to bring them forward. So Tiffany, you are a communicator of bees, and the bees have a lot of information to share, their organization, they're preparing, but you also communicate other things. And would you just please share your process as a communicator?
In the Kitchen Veritas with honor, respect, and gratitude. Yes.
I'm like,
Uh,
honest.
I have noticed exactly what you shared in terms of being in that high vibration, um, and staying clear yourself prior to clearings coming through. The bees tend to share more and come through at a more regular rate when I'm in that space, in that high vibration, kind of operating at the space nature naturally operates at anyway. And one thing that I've also noticed with the bees, which is pretty fascinating, is if I need to be a little bit more clear before they come forward and share something with me, then I find them buzzing all around me, because bees also clear the ether and the air and the space around us. And so a lot of times before getting a communication from bees themselves, they are buzzing around me. They are clearing the space around me, literally buzzing around my ears. One time a bee almost even flew into my ear, and I was like, oh my goodness,
Mhm.
I guess I really needed to be clear to hear what you were saying, even though the information isn't coming in, auditorily like that as well. But it one thing that I have noticed is whether I'm communicating with bees or anything else, that and Tarvars and I have talked about this before, and Delilah, you and I have too, is that there's this level of knowingness that if you know and understand that we are all one and we're all providing information all of the time through what's being emanated off of us, then we're able, and I'm able to kind of tap into that with anyone, anything, all of the time. And so while there are times that I do, go into the Akashic records, and I have a process and getting very meditative and sitting down and having the information come through, and I'm writing, 10 pages of what the bees are sharing with me. A lot of times there are also instances where, when I continue to keep myself clear on a regular basis, and when I am in a high vibration, then the bees will just share with me all of the time what I need to know. The other day I was just outside gardening, and a bee flew in front of me, and I had a knowing that, which bees fly in front of me all the time when I'm gardening, right?
Mhm.
But I just had a knowingness at that moment, and I listened to it, that I needed to turn my attention to the hive and look down at the bottom of the hive. And there were a few things that needed my attention, that I wasn't aware of, that I wouldn't have noticed, had I not been in that moment at that time and
Right,
listened,
right.
and so I also find that, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, it just reminds me of like animation where, they have those animations where a bee is actually talking to you in the in the movie or the show. Yeah,
Absolutely.
you got to look over here. We need help. We need help.
It's exactly like that. Or even my daughter has these beautiful gnome books, and the gnomes will will notice a random piece of fleece from a sheep caught in a fence, and then the gnomes will get the attention of a child by waving string in front of its face, and then the child knows to go look at the string and follow it to the fence where the sheep is hurt. It's just like, and but it kind of does operate like that. If you are just aware and
Yeah.
and pay attention to what's around you. I mean, there was
Yeah.
that saying, there are signs everywhere. Like there are movies that
Yeah.
say there are signs everywhere, but they're all day long. And so
True.
even when I'm interacting with, my daughter, and if she's frustrated or upset about something, um, I'm able to observe through nonverbal communication how that's a reflection of what I'm feeling as well.
Hmm.
And so taking a moment to observe where I'm off and how she's reflecting back to me, that I'm putting out that I'm off, and then she's off in the same moment.
Yeah.
Um,
It's energy. All
it
energy.
is, yeah, and it's just a way to tap in. And um, I I talk to the bees and to everything outside so often that I would say I don't even really have a process anymore unless I'm looking for certain information. If I want to go to
Mm.
the hive, and and before I get in the hive, I ask the bees if it's an appropriate time and if there's anything I need to pay closer attention to. But most of the time, it really is. I mean, whenever a bee in the hive dies, bees only live about 27 to like 40 days, and there's always a bee that's lying outside of our doorstep when we walk out in the morning, because it wants us to give it invocation veritas and thank it and then move it to an appropriate spot. And so it's quite fascinating. It happens on a very regular basis here. But they're, communicating, I feel like, every day on different levels with us.
Yeah. That's
I
wonderful.
I have just a brief experience the other day that I want to share with, and how and what is just for them to communicate. I mean, my daughter's talking all day long to everything outside, and she, one moment, honey, uh, we were doing a beach cleanup, and we were cleaning up things that people had littered and trash on the beach the other day, and there were other children with us, and they all kept running up to the birds and like scaring them and saying boo, and the birds would run away, and we just don't operate like that. And Jade was observing, saying, "That's not very kind." And I was like, "I know, it's maybe you should, let's talk to the birds and thank them, and tell them we're sorry, for that they're getting scared, and maybe share with your friends that that's not a kind way to interact with them." Um, Half an hour later, I observe her sitting next to a pigeon. She's all by herself, and in a very quiet voice, she says, "Boo." And the pigeon just looks at her. And she was just like trying it out. Like, what does that even feel like? And then she just realized it wasn't something that felt right in her body. And she just started waving at the pigeon and then sat down and just had a conversation. And it was just really interesting, because it was no different than if she were talking or waving to a friend. Like, it's literally with that level of like, "Hi, how are you?"
Hmm.
Because
Hmm.
they're only in their feeling state. They're not, especially at this age, from 0 to 7. They're not in that intellectual, state of having to get out of their own way with anything in their mind. And so,
Right.
um,
Right. That's exactly getting into your own way, as we've
right. And I
grown.
think that exactly, and I think that observing children and how they interact with everything, and also just feeling inside your body, when you're around something and you get a feeling, that's a form of communicating to yourself, and whatever the thing communicating, information to you.
Right. Right. Tabar, did you have something to say?
Yes, I have a question, and then I'd like to follow up with a statement. So
Yes.
this question is for Tiffany. So, is it correct or true that you don't have to do a dance around the beehive in order to start a conversation with them?
I am not going to tell you that we do not dance around the beehive, because we very much dance around the beehive. The other day I sat out there and we were telling stories and singing songs, and my 4-year-old was naked on my lap, and we were like, I don't know, a foot away from the beehive. But you do not have to do that in order to communicate with the bees.
Okay,
I do
all right.
encourage dancing around the hive.
Okay, thanks for clarity. The YouTube video I saw said otherwise. So, um, And then secondly, I wanted to touch on something that both you and Delilah mentioned in your experience of communicating, and the idea of like what kind of allows us to tap into the akasha, or even to communicate. I would say more so the akasha, but it is tangential to communicating, and I understand it to be the 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 depths of one's ability to be the truth. That'll determine how much of the truth is accessible to us through the akasha.
Mm-hmm.
And then this idea of communicating, how it begins with you realizing that you are everything. Like, yeah, the universe revolves around you. Forget what everybody else said. That's the truth of it. And but it's the same idea for every other nodal point of consciousness, such as you, Tiffany, and everyone else on the line. And it starts through the feeling, like recognizing the information that comes to us as feeling, and
Yeah.
then building upon that, but recognizing that we're not separate from what's sending the information back to us. It's all us, And I have seen that through stepping into oneness, and I think I mentioned this in the last talk, like moving more into oneness and seeing myself in things, whether it's the tree or the plants or the consciousness of other life forms, even clients for that matter. And like seeing myself in them has allowed me to move deeper into the information exchange.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If
Yeah.
I may share a real time moment happening right now, um, it's fascinating because Jade wanted my attention when I was speaking, and she opened up this book called Observation Hives for Bees, and she turned it to a page and started scribbling on the page, and it says communication of distance.
Oh, really?
She can't read these
Real
words.
and real.
And I'm like, okay, she doesn't just open books and scribble on them, but she was trying to get my attention.
Right.
And it was just fascinating. So I just had to, we're talking about the bees, and this whole page in the book is about the distance that the bees communicate to get to the flowers, but she scribbled all over communication of distance. And
Yeah.
then it says the dance language controversy.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
thank you.
Communicating before she has acumen of the vocabulary to express that. So thank you.
Right, and connecting to the page in the book that does it, she opens it to the page that feels like the correct one, not that intellectually is the correct one with the correct, but the page that feels. It's all that leading with feeling. Thank you.
So this leads to Lauren. Lauren, you are a communicator as well with flowers, which is so interesting. But even deeper, your connection with the ancestors and communicating with them for guidance and survival. Can you please share with us your process?
Yes, Unlakeshan Veritas, honor, respect, and gratitude. Before I begin, I do have to actually just share how everything is in such divine alignment. As we speak right now, today I received an order for an event I'm working with flowers for this weekend, and we have present with us for this talk on communication 300 roses that are here joining the party, and there may or may not have been a dance. So I'm just gonna leave it at that with them. um, my process began, I have to say, at a very early age, and we've touched upon this. I've heard everyone speaking today touch upon this, that we were communicating before we knew we were communicating. And it might have been in a different way, but whether it just be in admiration or gratitude for the presence of a life form that brought us such joy, which is a form of protection. I spent years allowing myself to be in the presence of this gracious, beautiful gift of life, the flowers. And I would speak to them, and I would dance with them, and I would cherish them and design with them and ask them to bring joy to others. But I never really thought about the idea of sitting down and having a conversation in the way that they would bring forward a message. And I remember when I first became a student with of the sun, Laota asked me a question, and she said, well, did you talk to them? And I had to think about that for a minute. I'm like, no, I tell them I love them, but I never really went deeper to ask the idea or ask the question of what is it that you're bringing forward to share with us? What is the message for us to learn, to know, so that we can grow and evolve? Because the consciousness of life has messages for all of us to be heard and to grow from. And this is the idea of our ancestry. You know, this idea of also en lakesh and veritas, oneness and truth. We are the ancestry of life, of the planet, the earth, the elements, the trees, the flowers, the bees, plants, all of that. Our ancestors were communicating because it was built within their blueprint to have the awareness and the knowledge to know which plants were to be eaten, which ones were to be used for healing,
Yep.
which ones
Absolutely.
were, yes, to provide for us, to watch and communicate with the consciousness of animals. And as herds were moving and leaving, that shared with them, oh, it was time for us to go too. It's time to move. Seasons change, things were always presented. And they had the knowingness to be able to respond and communicate and get the message. So when I sit down now and I speak with the consciousness of something, I always start by moving myself into a space of honor, respect, and gratitude, and to remember that there is a message coming forward, and I am just the vessel to bring forward the message to the greater whole, to the consciousness of life, to humanity to benefit. And that is a very important part of it for me to be able to receive with clarity. Again, like you had mentioned, keeping our spaces clear, very important to clear ourselves, keep our minds clear, asking the consciousness that I'm speaking to bring forward the most appropriate words. And I notice when I sit in the sun and when I have my feet on the earth, I receive more. And literally, I think about that. When you sit in the light, you become enlightened because you're in the light. You're in the light of the sun, and the sun is the nucleus of all life that truthfully provides information
Yeah.
for
It's
every
like
aspect.
you're aligning with, your all your chakras. I mean, that's what you
Absolutely. Yes.
describe.
Yes, the sun is the composition of all color, of all life. It's what's needed. So, absolutely. And, you know, I receive a great deal from that type of experience. But, even if I can't get outside, just sitting by a window, communicating, having a plant near me, having life. Plants give us such great reward. And just even speaking about flowers, since that's something I first started my communications with, it was speaking to the consciousness of flowers. We look at a flower. I mean, if you just close your eyes and you envision a flower and what it represents, there's so many aspects that it speaks. It speaks languages of the golden ratio, sacred geometry, the colors of the chakras, like you said. It's sensory in all aspects, and it's informing us, and it's trying to share with us a way to raise our spaces, raise our vibrations. Roses, because I have roses here. Roses they operate at the highest frequency within the realm.
Hmm.
It's known, if anyone has worked with roses or rose essential oils, rose water from Of the Sun, just the experience of having a rose near you. Elevated.
Lauren.
Yes, and the Kitchen Veritas. Can,
Oh, we just lost you a little bit. Go ahead. We can hear you now.
okay. Um, uh, so just the idea of roses, bringing forward the truth of what they do. They are a representation of the highest possible vibration, healing all ailments. It's the mother of the flower realm, a warrior, perfect balance of masculine and feminine, because it is masculine and feminine.
Yes. Yeah.
You cut a rose, and what happens is it regenerates and grows too. It doubles, it strengthens, it heals itself. It heals its own wounds. It
Right.
provides its own protection. This is
Oh,
no different than the human aspect. And it's
right.
coming forward to remind us of those things.
Yeah.
And
And how about our connection with our ancestors and getting this information from these
oh my
plants
goodness, absolutely. I mean,
for the
if
our survival, like you're saying, they can direct us to medicinal purposes of the plants. And the
Yes,
plants are trying to assist us, and their ancestors are trying to deliver the messages to us through communication.
absolutely. Absolutely, and remembering that the ancestry of the planet is the ancestry of humanity. Our ancestors are alive, awakened, breathing within us, and we must remember to connect to that idea, to connect to the truth. We were designed in this the beautiful aspect of divine mind, which is perfection, which is truth. And when we remember that and honor that our bodies are our ancestors, and what is needed to fuel our bodies is the ancestry of the planet, what is life that is here to support and sustain us, the truth,
Hmm.
we heal, we reconnect, our
Right.
ailments disappear. I had an experience, and I believe I shared this with a few of you, but last week I burned myself, and I was outside. I was planting some mums, and the burn on my finger was really bothering me, and a form of communication. I'm sitting there working with the plants. I'm giving them Enlikesh, and immediately this voice in my head, which is the voice of my ancestors, plant your hand in the soil. Put your
Mm.
hand in the earth. Connect to the consciousness of the earth, the life that is there. Ask it to heal. Communicate. Communicate your intentions. One thing we're taught, and first thing we're taught in Of the Sun, through clearing, through every aspect, always ask.
Hmm.
Always ask. That's the first thing. So ask. So when you ask, you make a request, and the universe can hear and respond. So I ask the consciousness of the soil, the consciousness of my ancestors, help heal my wound. You know,
Right. Right.
and and I can feel that life, the life that is the earth, that regenerates all aspects, healing my body, healing my pain, taking that burn away. I literally, minutes, not even minutes, I took my hand out and the pain was gone. It didn't come back. There was no
Mm.
sign of it, because
That's
the
beautiful.
intelligence of life is there to support us.
Right. Right. That's beautiful.
And that's the message I believe with communicating, is to understand that all of life is trying to bring forward a message. It's just if we allow ourselves to get still and ask.
Right. And
Ask.
that's the key too, is still, we're in such a rush society that we don't take the time to be still and to listen,
Yes. And that
to
also
those
brings
small.
forward another point of, I also, when I have noticed, I do receive information, like others had said, just walking through or having an experience. But when when I schedule a time and I say, all right, flowers, you have a message, you've been coming forward to share something with me, or the ancestors, or whatever consciousness I'm speaking to. If I say, I will be there at 1:00 p.m., can we communicate at this time? Yes, the information comes forward fluidly, quickly,
Hmm.
and it's just so clear because it's operating in order. It's
Hmm.
operating in law. Everybody can be where they're supposed to be, and
Yep.
it's respected. So
Right.
it's
Getting answers, getting answers to our questions. It's a solution.
yes, and just another note on speaking with the ancestry, and we've touched upon this a bit, but speaking to the consciousness of our body is really very important um, with communicating, because it's designed to bring forward the truth.
Right.
And when we need something for our physical bodies, to ask our bodies, what does it need? It has the intelligence to provide that information, whether that
Right.
be through a food that's needed at the time to help us something, or a plant or a remedy of whatever sort that might be, or a color. That's all things that we're taught. They help raise our vibrations and heal the body.
Right. Yeah, our bodies are amazing and can heal itself if we provide it with the proper tools.
Yes,
Bottom
ma'am.
line.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
that leads us to Serenia. I mean, so Serenia has that natural affinity for various herbs, sprouts, fruits, plants. And I've heard many of your communications with regards to the many various plants and herbs and live food, for that matter. I've actually seen you sing and dance with them. you know. So can you tell us about your communications and your process, how you get information from them, especially from like a medicinal standpoint
Yes, and
as well?
like I spirit talks with honor, respect, and gratitude.
And like a Veritas, honor, respect, and gratitude.
I have a similar. I mean, we're taught through the altar of the sun, utilizing the same practices and, the highest possible vibration, being in elevation, having honor, respect, and gratitude for all the consciousness of all life, and realizing the connectedness,
Mm.
that we're all connected and that we're one consciousness, the consciousness of all things. I first of all would like to say the process is very similar to everyone else that has spoken before me, but I would say it very initially, as you were saying, Delilah, and everyone else has said, um, early in the lifetime, I had an affinity for paying attention to the learning about the herbs and listening to my grandmother, and she really didn't speak a lot. She just did, and I paid attention, and I carried that through my lifetime, through this lifetime, onward and upward. I wasn't consciously aware of what was going on, but as I came with of the sun, um, and realized that you can communicate. I was resistant, I will say, because I didn't think that I could do it, because I thought there did have to be some kind of process that you would have to, see things and you'd have to hear things a certain kind of way. And I was like, no, I'm not, that's not me. I'm not doing that. I'm going to be doing this. I'm going to be working with the herbs, but I'm going to be working with it this way. And,
Mhm.
Lola was like, no. I mean, when you understand, when your vibration is more elevated, then you start having an understanding. Things will come to you even more readily. When I was
Right.
open to receive, as
Right.
I was becoming more elevated in my understanding and connectedness with the universe, I would
Yeah.
be walking down the street,
Right.
and
Yep.
the plants would be like talking, like, I'm like, what? I'd be looking. They would catch my attention, and I'd be looking down. I'm like, oh, look how beautiful that is. At one
Yeah.
point, it was to the point, I think I've said it before, where I was taking so many pictures of all the plants and flowers. I'd be driving, I'd ask the children to take pictures, because they would really be calling out, because they see they want to be appreciated.
Mm.
Everything wants to be acknowledged and appreciated. And if they understand that you have an understanding and an appreciation, and you honor and respect them, and then they understand that you see the consciousness of their life and their importance, then they're willing to reach out to you, you
Yeah.
know. And so they were doing that. Was first how it started, after I had the awareness of it, as Loda helped me to understand. And then the reluctant communicator came forward to really to be open and to receive. And then, as Lauren says, I I give the plants in La Question Veritas, when they make themselves noted to me, right? They say, oh, they want to say something to me. Something will come forward, because it's other things too, other consciousness that comes forward, like animals, birds, insects, and that they'll come forth, and then I'll be like, what? You want to say something? I give them Invocation Veritas, and I ask if they have a message for of the sun, if they have a message for me personally as well. And then they'll let me know, there's a feeling, there's a knowingness.
Mm-hmm.
And then I ask them if they'd be willing to speak with me. And then I schedule, as Lauren says, on the calendar. I ask them, is this the appropriate time? And I schedule with the Akasha. And I ask the Lords of Akasha, to assist, and with this to be an appropriate time. It's all in respect. It's all in order, divine order. And if you do anything in divine order, then everything is ordered, right? And you get
Right.
it appropriately. And so that's how I do it formally. And then it's more fluid, and no, but I also get information through the water a lot. So I'll be in the shower, and then
Right. Right.
information just comes through, right? And so
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
it's clear.
And
Um,
that's where, like, of the sun provided me, if I may add, the understanding how the process worked, and having that understanding helped me to progress in my ability to communicate with things. You
yeah,
know, so I agree.
yeah.
I agree with everything
And
you say.
and the flowers, I mean, and the plants also have a signature. They all, they have a certain kind of way of looking. At first most people are attuned to, oh, looking in a book to tell about a plant. But what did our forefathers do? I mean, they didn't
Yeah.
have any books to go back to.
Right. Where did they get that information from? You
Right.
look, where did the origin from all the information from all these various books come from?
Yeah. And that's not acknowledged, that the indigenous people have a respect. The indigenous people of all continents have a respect. They have had a respect for the plants, and all of life, and in honoring them, they were able to the plants were in agreement to speaking with them. And so
Right.
they were able to get that. And so we have that ability as well as we become more elevated and more aware of our oneness and the consciousness and appreciation and respect for all things. Then those
Right.
things too will come forth, be willing to speak with us. So I will ask for a specific thing, for a specific person. We calculate the percentage of accuracy on the information that is received, and I'll keep doing it until I get it to that accuracy, the level of accuracy, 95.5% and higher, that shows me that's an A.
Yeah. A plus.
Right. And so that's what we're taught. Is the information, you know, appropriate? Is it, what you're receiving accurate? And so you can calculate that, and that's what we're taught to do. And so
Form of
all
it.
of that is in order.
Yep. It's all, and it's providing us with answers that we can rely from within rather than from outside of ourselves.
Right. And is this specific, is this appropriate for this particular person? How much,
Yep.
and it's not what is in the book, it's what is appropriate for this person. And we can get that specific information from the plan itself, from the
Right.
consciousness of the plan itself.
Right. Right.
So
Thank you for that, for sharing that. That's so helpful. And you
mhm.
know, like I have attested, I've seen Serenia dancing in front of the plants and herbs, and when she's working with them and nurturing them and growing them and so forth, and she's having a lot of fun. And that's a high vibration that is in the space in order to help support the growth of the plant, to bring that energy into you as you ingest it. So, basically, just remembering that the process of communicating is inherent within all of us. And this is how our ancestors received the information for their survival, through communicating with nature and with the many renowned scholars, the Socrates, Hippocrates. They came up with information that has been written down and then shared with us through many of the history books. So we have to remember that. And so, what better teacher can we have is by tapping into those records, that information ourselves. So Tavares, do you have any additional information that you would like to share regarding this process, communication, and Akashic record reading?
Yes. So listening to the other communicators, it seems that everyone enjoys dancing with consciousness that they communicate with. But however, it is not necessary to do so. It is just something they enjoy.
I know.
All jokes aside, there was something that Serenia was touching on regarding the consciousness of the plants and how not everything is for everyone. And it makes me think about several different things within the spiritual community where, for example, we see an animal show up in our experience. Let's say it's a bird, right? We see a hawk or maybe a cardinal, maybe a butterfly. And then what do we usually have the impulse to do? Oh, let me pull up my Google or my laptop and see what that means, and the fake
Right.
artificial akasha called Google, right? Because that's what that is
That's
to me.
artificial. You're right.
Yeah,
Artificial.
it is anti-life's form of the akasha with all of our data and information. But I think that's a story for another time.
Yeah.
But we go to that first, and we get our information thinking that that's going to be the end all be all. And the reality is that there are archetypal energies that are present and that have universal messages. However, it's just like what Serenia was sharing. That bird that you saw, or that butterfly, it may have information that's unique to you that you won't find on Google, that would require you to move into stillness, kind of get quiet, feel what comes up within you when you tune into that consciousness of that being. So this is something that has eluded us, and I can see it's kind of the trap, where we continue to go outside of ourselves, even though it could be used as a stepping stone. This is not to bash that, but what I am saying is that there's more, and this even extends to the idea of dreams. They have dream books, and last time I checked, the dreams were connected to our subconscious mind. And you telling me we all got the same exact thing going on us in our subconscious? I think not. I think not. What a white horse means to one person may mean something differently to another, you know.
Right.
And of course, there are archetypal themes, but it's imperative that we do not use these things as a crutch or even a handicap to limit ourselves of what's really available to us. And I find that we may miss out on an opportunity of what's uniquely being reflected back to us as ourselves. Speaking, reverberating back to us the information that needs to be assimilated.
Right. No, thank you. That's so helpful. So, for those who want to learn more about this process, there'll be a class given of the Akashic record reading taught by Tarvars through Of the Sun. Would you tell us a little bit more about this class, Tarvars,
Yes.
for those
So,
who are
um, if you don't know, I'm a heretic, and that means I'm here to burn stuff down.
interested?
The old way of thinking, and even the old New Age way of thinking, our perception and to dispel all the mysticism around the Akasha is like the joking example that I gave earlier. Many people think that you have to put on a show or do this exaggeration to tap into something that's far beyond you, and that's not the truth. The truth is that we're swimming in the Akasha and we're tapping into it all the time, and to just essentially dispel that and bring forth the truth and do a variety of different exercises that tune into uh, feeling,
Hmm.
stimulating information through feeling. Many of the communicators tonight touched on that idea of how we feel. We
Hmm.
get information through our feelings, and this is something that doesn't matter where you are within your spiritual growth and evolution. We all have the gift of feeling and perceiving reality through our feelings. So we'll be doing exercises with that and building the muscle to interpret, to translate, to assimilate, and then articulate what we're perceiving through that feeling. And then, of course, depending on your own willingness, you may be able to go even beyond that. And there's some other things that we'll do with automatic writing, for example, because that's something that uh, in my early development with reading the Akasha, I saw that the information flowed quite effortlessly. It was pretty wild to see. Like for some time, I was leaned into writing in the Akasha versus verbally articulating it or doing recordings for myself. And that was a great way to release. And this is again another exercise to help the individual understand that you have all the information, or you can know how to get it. This is saying that Lao Tzu has always shared, specifically for the property clears. We are taught to live in the answers. It's just a matter of how we frame the question. Our capacity or desire to receive the truth. It's kind of like what I mentioned earlier about how um, our the depth of our ability to be the truth will determine how much of the truth is accessible through the Akasha. So if we are busy living a lie, busy trying to kill everything, busy being scared of everything in nature that come from great grandmama, Mother Earth, you
Hmm.
know, we live in that lie. It's going to be hard to speak to the consciousness of the spider or the bird that we have some type of uh, dissonance with. So we'll be speaking a lot about oneness because again, through my journey and my experience, one of the keys to this is the oneness. And once I tapped into it, I was like, oh, Lord have mercy. It really
Mhm.
was a breakthrough. And I made the joke the other day how I gave gratitude, honor, respect, and gratitude to Laota. So I was like, man, I was walking around bumping into walls this whole time, and it was really in front of me, So for those who are looking to do this, uh, we in of the Sun, we already have all the tools that are necessary
Yeah.
to be successful in acquiring information from the Akasha. And this is again information that may relate to your business, your finances, your journey, and even beyond. We have everything that we need. It's just really about going deeper into it, adhering to the truth, adhering to oneness, and then applying those principles through the processes that will be shared.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for that. I encourage everyone to look into taking this class. This is another form of getting answers from within, from yourself, that's specific for you. So thank you again, Tarvars, Tiffany, Lauren, and Serenia for sharing with us your process as a communicator. I encourage everyone again to do their diligence and do your own research and learn more about this practice as a communicator to get your own answers. And I also encourage you to consider joining this Akashic record reading class given by Of the Sun. And more information can be found on ofthesun.com. And the best way to learn more about information is by doing it and practicing it yourself, being a class participant. Again, thank you to Vars, Tiffany, Lauren, Serenia for providing such insightful information today on Clubhouse and sharing your experiences on this process as a communicator. Before we go, I'd like to invite everyone to Whole Responsibility meditation sessions that is hosted by the Unlikesh Studios on Tuesdays and Thursdays, 6 a.m., 12:30 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Time for 30 minutes. Joining tapping into the power of the Ho'oponopono. It's a powerful technique of forgiveness, reconciliation, and gratitude. I would also like to remind everyone for our Divine Nation workshops given every 2 Fridays of the month via Zoom conferencing. And these are workshops using the Call for Truth Divination card deck, a companion for the Call for the Truth publication written by Lauta Rasul. And these workshops are shows you how to utilize these cards to provide answers to questions about ourselves and about our circumstances around us. And there is a workshop that's completely free, as well as the Whole Responsibility meditation is also completely free. These workshops for Divine Nation is provided in a friendly, receptive atmosphere, and I encourage you to sign up and join. So our next Divine Nation session is in 2 weeks, Friday, October 7th, at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. So thank you again, everyone, for joining. I look forward to seeing you on the next week when we share more tools of empowerment for everyone to benefit and share. And remember, knowledge is power, and taking action from this knowledge is true power. With honor, respect, and gratitude, and Lakesh and Veritas.
And the Keshin Veritas, honor,
Like Catch
respect,
and
and
Veritas.
gratitude.
And Lakesh and
Respect.
Veritas.
Veritas,
Honor, respect, and gratitude.
gratitude.
Thank you. Thank you.